This one is going to be about the Kalevala and Tolkien. The Kalevala is a bunch of poems from Finland. Tolkien was very interested in the Kalevala, which he ended up learning the language, the original, so he could read them. This is a sign of a truth seeker. Well, he was also expert in languages, so it wasn't hard for him. So he learned it because he wanted to know. He didn't rely on opinions or someone else's interpretations, or, you see, he wanted to spiritually connect with these poems. He said these poems was like a wild primitive tale. He said, we are taking a holiday from the whole course of progress of the last 3 millennia and going to be wildly un-Hellenic and barbarous for a time. Why un-Hellenic? You see, in the Greek style or Roman or, you know, in these tales, the heroes go on a journey to fetch something. For the most of the times, they go and fetch something. Something is required, and they go on a quest. But in the Lord of the Rings, they're not fetching anything. No, they are on a journey to discard something, which makes it more interesting. I will leave this to your interpretation, right? But in my opinion, they are letting go an object, a shiny object. Whenever someone gets that object, what they do, they get possessed by its, oh, my precious, it's so beautiful. Oh, I want to have it. I want to, very possessive about these objects. And these objects end up possessing you, right? So the Lord of the Rings, is to let go of objects in a certain way. It's a journey. It's a magical journey. There's fantastical, magical situations during the whole course, of the story, and there's friendship and courage and honor and all of those things in the middle, So reading the Kalevala, Tolkien said, we are reading a rich, a profusion and luxuriant tale. It is queer and strange. It is unrestrained, he said, and grotesque. It is very primitive and, I would say, very metal, very heavy metal. He said, I am very fond of these poems. They are literature so very unlike any of the things that we are familiar to in general readers. They are so un-European and could only have came from Europe. So he's trying to say that it was written in a time where Europe wasn't influenced yet by the Abrahamics. For Finland was the last to be converted to Christianity, thereby leaving a more recent legacy of paganism than traced in other European countries. Tolkien's encounter with the Finnish folklore, then its magical and richly textured topography, as well as its language, was a powerful lyrical and mythical encounter which he interpreted in terms of the theories of compositive mythology of his era, the starting point for the development of Middle Earth, its various peoples, genealogies, languages, and geography. He called them races of unhypocritical, scandalous heroes, and sadly unsentimental lovers. This was his Middle Earth characters. The phonetic resonance of the language of Finland led him to study its grammar and develop his own legendary language, which he called Quenya. Quenya is the Elvish language that you see in the Peter Jackson's films. Um, and it was very much inspired by the Finnish, language. Tolkien was clearly drawn to the stories of the Kalevala. Not only did they represent rich, primitive, and poetic of a people that was undetached from nature, but because they told in a visceral and lyrical manner the perennials of human love and suffering, not only of the magical entities, but also very human characters who behave with a singular um, look and conventional dignity, with their readiness for tears and dirty deals. You see, it's very human characters. It's not like the Abrahamics, which is nauseating. So, why should you read the Kalevala? For the delight of the earth, the wonder of it, the essential feeling as of the necessity for magic, that judging, that juggling with the golden, um, juggling, it's like juggling with the golden moon and with the silver sun. That is man's universal pastime. These are the things to seek in the Kalevala. So, let me read that again. For the delight of the earth, the wonder of it, the essential feeling as of the necessity for magic, that, almost like juggling with the golden moon and the silver sun, that is man's universal pastime. These are the things to seek in the Kalevala. Tolkien. So, one of the central heroes in the Kalevala is Vainamoina. Vainamoina, the central figure of Finland's national epic of the Kalevala, is an immortal sage who shapes reality through magical songs and incantations. You see, he wasn't much of a sorcerer, he was a magician. He fought using the voice, with songs and music. He was challenged many times. Vainamoina was challenged by other magicians, and they would fought who had the best arguments, the best songs. You know, he always won. Of course, he was a badass. This Vainamoina. As an ancient bearded wandering, wielding power through wisdom rather than force, you see. His character bears striking parallels to Gandalf in Tolkien Lord of the Rings. I am reading the books at the moment, but it seems that Gandalf, he's nerfed. He doesn't use his power. He's just, you know, talking to people most of the times, and he uses magic as a last resort. He just gives advice, and tries to, guide the peoples of Middle Earth. He doesn't use brute strength. He just uses, wisdom. Um, exactly like Vainamoina. Both figures embody the archetype of the wandering wise man whose magic stems from the deep knowledge and songcraft rather than conventional sorcery. Tolkien draw inspiration from this character, this iconic wizard, in which the similarities extend beyond their appearance and powers. Both characters serve as mentors and guardians of ancient wisdom, and are and both depart and they both depart their respective worlds by sailing away to distant shores. So, in my opinion, uh, because the Kalevala, it's something that is a story that passes from generation to generation through, it wasn't written, it was mouth to mouth. Yeah. Um, it, in the end, when they depart for another place, it's representative, in my opinion, that something else came, into the culture, and they had to go into retirement, into other place. It's passing from one era to the other. You see, from one influence to the other. The population maybe got influenced by other cultures, and symbolically, the wizard, he had to retire prematurely because people just changed culture, they changed points of view. You know what I mean? That's when his story ended in, that part of the world. That's my opinion. There was a changing in culture, so he sailed away to distant shores, eventually to return someday when people, get pagan once more. Once paganism is back, the hero, the bearded Wainamoinen, will return. So anyway, it's similar in the films. There's a new era. Gandalf says it's the age of men. The elves are. It's not Gandalf that says. I think it's Elrond. He says the age of elves is over because elves was controlling everything in a certain way. And now it's up to men to take over Middle Earth. We are just going to go into the other distant shores and leave Middle Earth to men. You see, there's a change in administration, so to speak, and they are going to retirement or something like that. But eventually they can return, if it's their time to return. Now, there's a theory out there that Homer was also a bearded wandering wizard that came from the north. And some archaeologists say that Scandinavian people, they came from up north. It was a people that was in harmony with nature, and they kind of descended from the Scandinavian areas up until the Mediterranean. This was before, the Slavs, the Mongols, everybody. It was before everybody. They descended up into Greece, and Homer, yeah, they say is, the same archetype as Wainamoinen, the same archetype. And in the epic of the Iliad and the Odyssey, they talk about the weather, they talk about some geographical places, they talk about food, they talk about many, stuff that doesn't coincide with Greece. It doesn't coincide with Greece. So there's actually researchers out there that say whenever they are talking about islands, Ithaca and stuff, whenever they are talking about the weather, whenever it's actually Scandinavia that they are talking about. It fits better. Again, this is just speculation, but we don't really know because there was no written, documents to prove this, that ancient Greek actually has some grammar from Scandinavia. You see, there was a mixture of cultures. Yes, there's influences from Scandinavia in Greece. The same way there's influences from Scandinavia and northern India, you know, before anything else, before, the written history. Anyway, I've been talking for 15 minutes already. So have a nice day.